Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, PattSun, and today we're gonna be taking a look at r/ProRevenge, where OP's disgusting ex-girlfriend gets exactly what she deserves. Let's begin. My girlfriend lied and went to an event I wanted to go without me, and I don't know what to do. Posted by Reddit user Responsible Log.
I'm not going to start out with the whole our relationship is perfect but thing that you always see on here. I'll admit this has been one of the hardest relationships I've been in. I still very much love her. She's beautiful, strong, driven, successful, and independent. However, my 30 girlfriend, 28, is a dismissive avoidant to the extreme, and it's been causing a lot of issues in our relationship. She's in therapy, but that is mostly focusing on managing her OCD and related eating disorder. Fun fact, all three issues are often comorbid. She has issues expressing her emotions or needs and struggles with communication, commitment, and compromise as a result. We've been dating a little over a year. Prior to me, her longest relationship was less than 2 months. She usually shuts down and runs from relationships if she feels smothered, if her partner lets her down, or if she feels like she's being criticized. It doesn't take much for this to happen. She does recognize this, and she's trying to work on it. But it's hard on us both. Both of us are big theater nerds. A few months ago, we had a trip to a city about 2 hours from us to visit her grandparents, and I got to meet her best friends from college for the first time. While there, we went to a show with her friends. I honestly had a great time. Her grandparents love me, and I got along really well with her friends. There was another show coming up in a few months that both of us have connections to. It was the first musical she ever saw with her grandparents, and I worked on a production in high school. I asked my girlfriend if we could go. I even offered to bring her grandparents and treat them to a nice night out. They don't get to go out much anymore. Or we could go with her college friends. I immediately got shut down. She said that she didn't really like that show, which she has mentioned before, and she didn't want to see it again. Fine, no big deal. That show was last weekend. Not sure if this is relevant yet. Feel free to skip this paragraph. We kind of had a fight on Saturday. I was about 15 minutes late to picking her up to hang out at a brewery, and she felt really let down. She's broken up with other people for similar reasons and gave the silent treatment all day. Eventually, I get her to open up. We apologize to each other and have a decent evening at home. The next morning, she says that she doesn't feel great and wants to go home to rest. I drive her home and asked if she needed me to stay with her, to take care of her or anything. Nope. She just wants a quiet day to herself. I tell her to let me know if she needs anything and headed home. I don't hear from her all day. Even when she's relaxing, we're usually trading memes and Snapchats of our cats, but she's not even opening my messages. Earlier that week, she had a migraine so bad that I needed to take her to the emergency room, and her sister just had a baby that's been having some health problems. I started to get really worried that something was wrong by late afternoon, so I decided to check her location on Find My Device. She's not at home. She's not even in our city. She's just leaving a restaurant and walking to the theater to go see the show that I really wanted to see. I assume she was with her friends again. The restaurant is a favorite of theirs. It's a nicer restaurant where they would have needed a reservation, and the show is a popular show. Everything would have needed to have been planned well in advance. I'm not worried about her cheating or anything. Her friends are married to each other, and she wouldn't be going with anyone else except maybe her grandparents. I'm just so hurt over everything. I really wouldn't have minded if she said she already had plans to go to the show with her friends. I just don't understand why she lied to me about not being willing to go and why she lied to me to hide that she was going. I think she just didn't want to explain that she wanted to go with her friends and without me. I don't know how to bring this up to her. She's very sensitive to criticism. Even though I'm hurt and I'm not mad at her, she'll probably take it as an attack. She also just doesn't really like me expressing my feelings to her in general and tends to shut down and withdraw. I'm worried that if I bring this up, she'll just break up and leave to avoid the conversation. She's threatened to do that before on much smaller issues. How can I bring this up without scaring her off? TLDR. Girlfriend told me she didn't want to go to a show I wanted to go to, then lied about what she was doing and went without me.
Oh dear God, OP. This woman sounds like a nightmare to deal with. Why the hell are you even tolerating this bullshit behavior? Imagine living the rest of your life where your feelings and thoughts about situations are met with hostility, continuously walking on eggshells because she might throw a tantrum over the smallest of things. This is where you're headed in this joke of a relationship. It screams narcissism, and trust me, you will regret it if you continue. OP, save yourself the years of heartbreak and disrespect. There is a reason why her longest relationship was only 2 months. Run for the hills, my friend. And now for today's second story. Cheat on me with my student, steal from me, and then slander my reputation? Get ready to lose your job, future, and face jail time. Posted by Reddit user XGF is a POS.
So, I was madly in love with my ex-girlfriend, together for 4 years. She is quite attractive and very affectionate. She thrived on attention, to which I catered to the best of my abilities. I fondly called her Winter, and she had a cheesy name for me as well, which I choose not to divulge. Overall, I was happy. I earned significantly more than her, apart from the fact that my grandparents left me a hefty amount of money. Although she lived in her own apartment, we live in a very conservative country, live-in relationships are a big taboo, most of the stuff in it was mine. She drove my car, used my laptop, and so on. I have a crappy 32-inch LCD TV, while she bought a 60-inch LED and defaulted on payments, after which I had to pay for it. This was not an isolated incident either, because she had a lot of things I was paying for. I admit that I was a doormat, in blissful ignorance of all the red flags. So one day I was at her place, and I used her laptop to check my email. I couldn't remember her Wi-Fi password. Her Gmail account opened up, and as I went to sign out, a Hangouts notification popped up, which said, "God knows I love your body. 7. Same park. Night at my place. Wear the dress OP bought for you so I can tear it apart." There were no other texts on that chat head. She probably deleted it. It was my student, my barely 18-year-old first-year student, whom we'll call Wuss. I can't describe how I felt at the moment. It was a wild cocktail of emotions. I slammed her laptop and stormed out of her place. But I was foolish enough to not take any evidence. But they were supposed to meet up the next day, and I could catch them red-handed. Next day, I go to the place where they were supposed to meet and catch them making out in my car. I knock on the window, ask for my keys, and tell her to never talk to me again. She was sobbing, apologizing, and so on. I asked Wuss to drop her home, and he just bolted like his tail was on fire. I can never forget the look on their faces, that sudden paleness and shocked expressions. Wuss also forgot his phone in my car. Meanwhile, I'm being bombarded with texts of her apologizing. I then block her. I left this detail out of the post I made on r/relationships, but I spent the next 2 days drinking myself to oblivion and hungover. Me left a lot of fuzzy details in the post. I tried calling my best friend, but he was away for a business trip, so I didn't disturb him. All I did for 2 whole days was drink, puke, sleep, eat, and repeat. 2 days later, when I came to my senses, I went through my bank statements and then canceled our joint account. Well, she withdrew almost all of the money in it, out of which 75% was mine. I was still being bombarded with texts and calls, but sometime during my drunken furor, I cracked my phone's screen, thus rendering it useless. So I got my backup phone and see a barrage of notifications. As it turns out, she posted on Facebook that I had been cheating on her, that I was an emotionally manipulative, two-faced douchebag who sleeps with his students. We had a lot of mutual friends, most of who blocked me. Someone even created a WhatsApp group, and they abused me and said horrible things. She even turned my sister against me. Our father left our mother for a woman half his age. Our mother got depressed and died after a few years, thus she was overtly sensitive about infidelity. But X was also horribly manipulative, and she pushed all the right buttons to make my sister hate me. X was hitting all the past wounds. She knew about our father. She said things like, "Chip off the old block," and "he's just like your father," and many more horrible, made-up things. She got very depressed because of this, and also several of her friends were on my ex's side. This has probably put a permanent strain on our relationship. Word about X's Facebook post spread like wildfire in the college. They pinned a shy, socially awkward girl as being my mistress and shamed that poor girl. To be honest, I have never even noticed her. The revenge. Finally, the part everyone was waiting for. She effectively ruined my reputation and goodwill I had created in my community and among my peers. Put my job in jeopardy. She turned my only family, my sister, against me. I later show her the apology texts my ex sent me, and then she apologized to me because clearly I was the victim, not her. Several kind Redditors suggested I contact a lawyer, which I did. So the next day when I went for work to take a few days off, I see Wuss and his father waiting for me. Somehow I resisted the urge to punch him. He apologized and told me that he'd do anything so as to not get him out of college. I asked him if he'd testify in my favor, and he obliged. I did tell him that I won't be able to save him because that was out of my powers. He told me he would still testify in my favor, and he sent me several screenshots of his chats with X, thus confirming that she was cheating on me and not the other way round. I pressed charges under Indian Penal Code Section 499, defamation, 505-4, intentional insult with intent to provoke breach of the peace. The day of the hearing was frankly the best day of my life since the breakup. She said a lot of malignant things about me, was yelling a lot to the point that the judge had to scold her. Her lawyer did ask for an out-of-court settlement, but I politely declined because it is not only my life she has inevitably screwed over. It would have been a lot cheaper, and I'd have gotten some dough, but fuck her. This was quite a scandal, but since I have a tenure of 5 years, they can't fire me. I was transferred to another college instead. Same pay, same incentives, but I'll have to travel a bit more than I prefer. As for her, she is in knee-deep shit. She was a librarian, she's a library science major, in the institution I worked for, and was fired as soon as I notified the authorities. The reason being philandering with a student. This has also screwed up her chances at procuring a job in the future. She also faces jail time, as mentioned under Section 500 and 504, which can extend up to imprisonment for over 2 years, a fine or both, and Indian jails, sheesh. She can post for bail, however. Wuss has been expelled. The money she stole, that would be going to her lawyer. My best friend went to her apartment, got my stuff back for me, which included a futon, a refrigerator, an air conditioner, a laptop, and several expensive electronics and some jewelry. She would keep the TV, though, because it is in her name. She'd probably have to sell it because lawyers isn't cheap, and she has no job and no savings. This is in India, and as you might have guessed, people are very, very conservative here. At some point, she will have to reach out to her parents, who still think she is a virgin. TLDR, X cheated on me with a student, stole from me, posted on Facebook that I cheated, thus slandering my reputation. I have pressed charges. She has lost her job, won't get a job or passport in the future. The irony is, all this was a consequence of her actions. She caused unspeakable agony not only to me, but to a lot of people.
Even after years of reading and posting hundreds of videos about infidelity here on YouTube, I still can't get over and still absolutely disgusted by the fact that all it takes to ruin a man's life is one lousy Facebook post. And the overwhelming majority of the time, these women who falsely accuses men can and will get away with it. These Indian laws that punishes these type of women should be a standard all throughout the world. Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my channels for you to watch absolutely free. So please consider subscribing to me on Rumble and on YouTube. Both will be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, consider subscribing to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.